Hello and welcome to How Mundane, the least interesting place on the internet. Today we have the thrilling conclusion to We Graded with Everyone so you don't have to. The compare and contrast of our 5 big grading companies. And what I've done is set out 8 different categories to evaluate these grading companies on. That would be the appearance and physical slab quality, the cost, the time it takes to get cards graded, the tracking that's provided by the grading company during the process, the grading reports, the accuracy of the grades, the reputation, which is of course a little subjective, and last but certainly not least, how the resale value holds up amongst these slabs. And then when we're all said and done, we'll take all those categories and see how everything shakes out. So, appearance, physical slab quality, a little bit subjective here. You can see all of the slabs side by side, and some people may have, personal thoughts on different particular looks versus one another. But in my opinion, the tag slab is the best looking slab. Not the least of which because they are the only one that includes the Japanese characters, but the fully transparent slab, I think, is just a home run look. It matches everything, whereas, for example, the PSA slab with the red may or may not go with whatever it's going to. For me personally, I would say number 2 is Beckett. Again, I like the look, the black versus gold versus silver labeling is really easy to tell from a glance, kind of where the grade falls in the slab. Their slabs are a very nice quality too. They feel heavy, they're weighty. To me, number 3 is CGC. And again, I think they're a pretty sharp looking slab. The ones that are pristine have the gold, which is cool. But, it's good quality plastic. Generally, the black goes with everything. I would say in 4th, that's where I would put SGC's Tuxedo slab. My biggest complaint with it is that it feels a little cheap. It is definitely a lighter weight plastic than the others. And finally, the PSA slab, while I know people love them, it is empirically not the most attractive slab. They have kind of tweaked a few things here and there over the years, so they don't all look exactly the same. But, the red may or may not go with any given card that's in the slab. So, moving on to the next category, let's talk about cost. And when it comes to cost, the least expensive to grade, generally speaking, is going to be CGC. Particularly if you subscribe to one of their tiers that gets you the discount across the board for all grading products, not just cards. They also grade comics and other things too. So usually they're going to be about the cheapest. And again, if you catch a sale, it can even be less than $10 a card. Next cheapest would be SGC. Again, if you catch a sale, you can get them for as cheap as $10 to $12 a card, which is really inexpensive for card grading. Third would be Beckett, if you go with their value tier. That is $14.95 a slab. Does not include the subgrades unless it grades a 10, and then they charge you an extra $3 and add the subgrades. So that's why that one comes with a bit of an asterisk, but just at a raw cost, Beckett is technically next. Tag, $15 flat a slab, plus an extra buck if you want insurance, plus an extra buck if you want them to clean up the card. So you're coming in very close to the same as what Beckett is. And last but not least is PSA. PSA is going to be the only one who will substantially upcharge you based on the value they think the card has. This personally drives me absolutely nuts. That said, if you're doing it at the base tier, it's all kind of in roughly the same ballpark. So these are pretty minor differences between the costs, particularly if you happen to catch a sale. SGC does them pretty often. Beckett does them a few times a year, and they do often do sales just for repeat customers. There was a Black Friday one this year that was 25% off for people who've graded with them before. PSA has monthly specials. Tag does specials every so often. They all do specials. So some of it's just watching to see what ends up working out when you're trying to grade some cards. Time. Here's where we start getting some big differences. So, from the last couple of returns I've had, the absolute fastest was SGC at 15 days round trip. That is door to door. The next fastest was Tag, which was 27 days. Again, from submission to getting their submission kit and then getting it into them, getting it graded, and getting it back. The next one is actually a tie, and I'm averaging out a couple of different orders between the two of them, so that's why I'm calling it a tie at approximately 55 days between PSA and CGC. I had PSA orders take less than that. I had PSA orders take more than that. And then the CGC order was exactly 55 days. And again, that's, out of my door to back to my door. Last, by a fairly wide margin, Beckett, for their base tier, took 83 days. It's quite a bit faster if you move up to their regular tier, which was 42 actual days. I think it's 25 business days. But that's also quite a bit more expensive because you're moving up from that $15, $17 price to, I believe, $25 a card. But if you're in a hurry, one of the things Beckett has, I think more than SGC, CGC, and Tag, PSA offers something similar, is expedited processing. The more you pay, the faster it will go. So next, we come to tracking. And I have to give this one to PSA. Their tracking through the whole process is far and away the most updated, the easiest to follow. It's great. And then, of course, you can reveal the cards in the app, as we showed in the video, before you even get them back, which is fantastic. The next, I would say, Tag actually has quite a bit to do in the tracking department. They have just as many steps in the process as PSA does, and it updates regularly, and it's very, very easy to follow. Next would be Beckett. They similarly have multiple steps, easy to follow, all that kind of good stuff. And then last, you know what? This should be a Tag slab. Yeah, so last is a tie between CGC and SGC. Both of them don't have as many steps to report in their tracking process. I will say CGC's is maybe a little worse because they're currently transitioning between two different systems. And if you, for some reason, are stuck in the old one, it kind of seems to be a mess. But the newer one seems to be roughly the same as what SGC has going on. So I'm going to call that one a tie. Grading reports. And I will see if maybe I can intersperse in some video showing the grading report website. Tag offers more in their grading report than everybody else. So really it's tag and then it's a tie between the other four. The tag reports offer so much detail about everything they saw on the card. It's really phenomenal. And that's actually one of the things I think they excel at the most. Everyone obviously will show you this is the card, this is the grade it got, here's the number of other cards that were graded similarly, the number of other cards of the same card graded, and how many, population report kind of things amongst their own population. The tag report has all kinds of bonuses, like this was the first card to receive this grade. This is the highest card or the best card with this particular grade. That's just what tag is really bringing to the table that is different than a lot of their competitors. And long term, if tag continues to be successful, that may be a real differentiator down the road. In fact, having the first tag pristine 10 of a particular card may increase the value up to kind of a Beckett Black Label kind of value. So something to think about for sure. Grade accuracy. So in this one, tag's grade has kind of the least ability for human error intervention to be involved. And I will say all of this, nothing is perfect. There have been errors from every grading company. So this is just kind of a broad statement based on personal experience and based on other things that I've seen reported from other users. But considering how little human decision making is involved with tag, it is by and large going to be the most consistent. Number 2, I would actually say, is Beckett. I know some people may disagree with me, but Beckett grades, generally speaking, harder than many of the others. And those grades tend to be consistent. Granted, we can always find outliers and exceptions, but it is what it is. The next spot here, I would say, is a tie between PSA and SGC, which is kind of funny because PSA bought SGC. So the fact that they're kind of on par with each other, you'll always get some potential outliers. There are plenty of reports of potential outliers of things going back in, getting regraded in ways that are difficult to explain. But, by and large, it is what it is. And last, I would put CGC. I've just gotten some really bizarre returns from them. And I've seen some other really bizarre returns from them. I don't think it's going to be quite the same level of consistency you're getting from everybody else. But again, I think you're talking of, small differences here, not big ones. Okay, moving on to reputation. I think it's probably no surprise here that the PSA reputation is, at this point, tough to beat. There is a reason they are as popular as they are. Everybody knows PSA. Everybody respects PSA. It is what it is. Number 2, despite recent troubles, I am still going to say is Beckett. They have been around for decades. They were kind of one of the original sources of truth for card prices for many, many years, and particularly in the sports scene. The reputation that Beckett has is quite good. Yes, they are currently undergoing some difficulty with one of their owners, and we will see if they get snapped up. I have a feeling that if they end up declaring bankruptcy, that Fanatics may swoop in and take over, which, may actually be ultimately a good thing for the business, because that Beckett name still carries a lot of weight. Third, and I would say it's a very close, you could almost call this a tie. SGC also has been around for a very long time. particularly has a lot of, standing with older vintage sports cards collectors. Some people consider their grades to actually be more accurate with the vintage cards than even PSAs. I have a feeling that may be why PSA picked them up. Fourth, and again, we're talking a matter of small degrees here at this point, CGC, because they have been around so much longer, because they are so well known in comics and other collectibles. No one's going to question a CGC slab. And last is Tag, mostly because they haven't been around so long. They definitely have gotten a lot more traction in the trading card community over the past couple years. They still do definitely struggle in the sports card community. And for now, you still can't even grade certain kinds of cards with Tag. They don't do Yu-Gi-Oh! They don't do relic cards. They don't do thick cards. So there's definitely a lot of limitations within the Tag system that I think to some people have affected their reputation just because it affects the volume. So last but not least, Resale. And I think you'll be not surprised to hear that obviously the king of Resale is PSA. It is what it is. That is what it has been for the longest time. I'm not sure there's much more to say there. Number 2 is gonna far and away be Beckett because of the value of the black label. A Beckett black label will outsell everything else on the table every single time. Yes, they are hard to come by, but there's a reason they're hard to come by, and it's because you can view a Beckett black label as a true, perfect card. And that's a reason why sometimes you will see them command, 5 times the price of a PSA 10 of the same card. Third, SGC. Cards seem to be pretty easy to move. Some people really like the tuxedo slabs. They seem to hold their value reasonably well, but it is definitely a step down from the other two. And last, at this point, I am going to call this one a tie between CGC and Tag. At this point, I'm not seeing the same returns people are getting on pristines from either CGC or Tag that people are getting on Beckett Blacks. At this point, it's just not panning out the same way. So if you're looking to do this purely for the purposes of Resale, you probably are looking at PSA, maybe looking at Beckett, and then you're kind of trailing off past then. And the numbers on price charting and elsewhere bear that out pretty clearly. So if you total all of these up, just placing them in numerical order 1 to 5 through all of these categories, and you would then take the lowest score to be the, top of the heap, as it were. But totaling out all those numbers, the last place finisher is CGC by a pretty good margin. Ahead of them is SGC. And then you're at a actual tie between Beckett and PSA, who are virtually tied with Tag in the first place. And that's only because really the categories aren't weighted. I think if you were looking at this as a weighted category kind of situation, the things where PSA and Beckett come out on top are the ones that really kind of matter. So I would almost say, depending on how much you value the Resale and how much you think long-term viability may or may not be an issue for Beckett and or Tag, PSA is a safe bet. Beckett is probably a safe bet. Tag is looking more like a safe bet as they continue to perform well. And then SGC is also an option. CGC just kind of lags behind the rest of the crowd. I mean, you're talking about Tag with 20 points, these two with 21, and SGC with 22, and then you jump all the way to 26 with CGC. So there you have it, folks. We graded with everyone, so you don't have to, and hopefully this will better inform your decision about who you would like to grade with if you want to get your cards graded. Thanks for being mundane with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.